Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Nedarim, page 10, which discusses that there were a group of Hasidim, pious, righteous individuals, that wanted to be able to perform every single mitzvah in the Torah, as well as bring every sacrifice. The dilemma was, how are they able to bring a chatat, a sin offering? Because certainly that's not something that they would want to do, because that would require them to have to sin. And therefore the Talmud here tells us that there was actually one way around it, by making yourself into a Nazir. As we mentioned, a Nazir is someone who refrains from eating grapes, drinking wine, coming in contact with the dead, as well as cutting their hair. And at the end of this time, they are obligated to bring various offerings, and one of them is a chatat, a sin offering. And certainly the question is, why is it a sin offering? But regardless, the pious individuals, they would make themselves into a Nazir, so this was their opportunity, their one chance to be able to bring this offering. Now the Talmud over here, which is also mentioned elsewhere, says that they actually would not do this, because the person who is a Nazir is actually considered in the book of Numbers as a sinner. Now, one could ask, why would this person be a sinner? But of course it makes sense why there's a sin offering. It must be that this person is a sinner. But the question is, how could the Torah tell us that this person sinned? Not only is this person someone who has not sinned, but they're going above and beyond. They're taking upon themselves additional stringencies, far above that which the Torah requires. So in this, the Talmud tells us something quite fascinating. There is an opinion that says the reason why it's considered to be a sin is because they have separated themselves and caused anguish, unnecessary pain and suffering by not eating grapes and not consuming wine. And therefore the Torah actually considers this individual as a sinner. So much so, it tells us that if you decide to take upon yourself to fast, which is not because it's Yom Kippur, but you take upon yourself additional fasts, so that the Talmud here says that certainly is a sinner. Because we see that if a person is called a sinner, this Nazir, and all they did was separate themselves from one thing, if you separate yourself from everything, then certainly you're considered to be a sinner, which is a very, very fascinating concept, which teaches us something unusual about Judaism. One would think that the greatest way of connecting yourself to spirituality is severing all ties of things which are physical. However, that is not the case. In fact, the Talmud, when we mention this, when it talks about this person who is a sinner, it's because they just did not drink wine. Now, it's fascinating that what we actually do is we take the most physical thing, wine, and it's intoxicating, it has potential negative effects, and it could cause a person to do things which are not good. However, we take that very ingredient, and on Friday night, we make kiddush. Kiddush means holy. So the way that we can sanctify and make something holy is with wine. Also, when it comes to marriage, as we mentioned many times, the first stage of a marriage, when a man gives something of monetary value, he has to also say, Hariat mikudeshet li, that you are betrothed to me. But the language is the same root, which is kadosh. You and I are engaged in something which is holy. So a person could also look at marriage, which is a very physical act, and say, perhaps we should separate ourselves from that. However, the Torah tells us that is not the case. The way that a person is supposed to live this world is we're supposed to enjoy everything, of course, within its limits. However, the point is, by separating yourself from it, that is considered to be wrong, or as the Talmud says, that is actually considered to be a sin. Instead, we should enjoy the things. However, we shouldn't just enjoy them for its base value, but we could elevate it to a higher level. And that is what we try to do. In this world, in which is a physical world, we don't just simply disconnect ourselves from it. We enjoy it. But at the same time, we need to take those physical things and elevate it to a higher level.